Jack Roosevelt Robinson was born on January 31st, 1919, in rural Georgia.
He was the fifth of five children, and when Jackie was a year old, his father had left the family, and his mother took those five children and moved to Pasadena.
Mally was the central influence on his life, beyond a doubt. She taught him restraint and optimism in the face of adversity, the feeling that somehow he would win out.
She worked mainly cleaning other people's houses, but earned enough money to buy her own house.
She bought into this place, which was on Pepper Street, among whites. Hers was the first black family there.
When the white neighbors tried to drive her out, she refused to go. So the model that Jackie had was one of pride, was one of strength, was one of ambition.
Robinson ran with a group of neighborhood kids who sometimes walked on the wild side.
The Pepper Street gang was not a gang like we think of gangs today, you know. It was just a gang of guys. We did a whole lot of mischievous things. We would rape somebody's fruit trees and things like that.
In his adolescent years, he definitely got twice into trouble with the police, but in both instances it had to do with Robinson refusing to run away when other people were running away and talking back and challenging authority.
Robinson successfully channeled that anger through 4 sports at Pasadena Junior College, where he gained the reputation of a hard-nosed.
He was out there to win and wasn't satisfied unless we did win. He didn't take any guff, and if you did something dirty to him, watch out, because down the line he probably would get back at you.
By the time he was through with Pasadena, no one could tell him that he could not compete athletically with whites. No one could tell him that he couldn't exist socially with whites. He was proud of who he was.
In 1939, Robinson, at 20, transferred to UCLA, where he drew national acclaim as a halfback for the Bruins.
All I knew growing up in New Jersey, when you go to the movies on Saturday, they show some sport, and you see this guy from UCLA running football and pointing and running. You just knew he was a heck of a football player.
It was nothing for Jackie Robinson to play in a doubleheader at UCLA, play the first game, get in a car, be driven down to the Coliseum, set the Pac-10 long jump record, go back out and play the second game of the baseball game.
When I was a youngster growing up in Southern California, I idolized Jackie Robinson. There wasn't a sport he couldn't play. Tennis, golf, you name it, he could play it. Ping pong, he was just an outstanding athlete.
He was as great an athlete, probably all-around athlete, as we have seen in this country in this century.
The first student in UCLA history to letter in 4 sports, Robinson suddenly dropped out of school in his senior year, convinced that his chances of finding gainful employment would be no better had he stayed to get a diploma.
His brother Mac had a college degree from the University of Oregon. His brother Mac also had been a great athlete, and he had been unable to get anything better than a janitor's job in Pasadena.
I don't think he ever thought he would be a professional athlete in any serious way because of the color of his skin.
Barnstorming with an all-black football team, Robinson landed in Hawaii, playing halfback for the Honolulu Bears in the fall of 1941. On December 5th, he left for the States. 2 days later, the date that President Franklin Roosevelt declared would live in infamy befell Pearl Harbor. The following April, Jackie was in the Army.
Assigned to Fort Riley, Kansas, he had applied for officers candidate school only to learn that he was not eligible, that they were not allowing African Americans.
But in the midst of almost certain rejection, fate smiled on Robinson when an enlisted man by the name of Joe Lewis was detached to Fort Riley on temporary duty.
Lewis was a sergeant, but needless to say, he was not your ordinary sergeant. And Robinson sought out Lewis to see if there was anything he might do to make sure that they set up a class of black officers.
Jackie was on the drill field in the last phases of officer candidate training with a senior officer. He referred to a black soldier as a stupid nigger son of a bitch. Jackie said, just a minute, that man's a soldier in the U.S. Army. Nigger, that goes for you too. Well, all of a sudden, that senior officer, he had no teeth.
Not disciplined in an official way, Robinson instead was dispatched to Fort Hood, deep into the segregated heart of Texas. Once more, he challenged the racial status quo.
The Army had recently ordered that buses on military bases were to be integrated, and Jackie was aware of that. So when a civilian bus driver ordered him to get to the back of the bus on the military base, he refused.
So 11 years before Rosa Parks ignited a revolution, the same act, Robinson was pioneering that gesture.
Court-martialed for insubordination, Robinson was exonerated and was honorably discharged in November of 1944. The following year, he was playing shortstop for the Kansas City Monarchs of the Negro National League. Still again, his moral resolve in the face of common everyday racism turned heads and minds.
The Monarchs had been going to a filling station in Oklahoma for 20 years, and they'd never gone to the restroom. A sign on the door said, "White men only." As Jackie gets off the bus and starts walking to the restroom. Man said, "Boy, where you going?" Say, "I'm going to the restroom." He said, "Boy, you know you can't go to that restroom." Jackie said, "Take the hose out the tank." From that day on, the Monarchs never got gas at the station. We couldn't go to the restroom. Jackie changed our thinking. He said, "This is America, man."
Soon, all of America would begin to learn about Jackie Robinson.